Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We'll be starting today's webinar, the On-Ramp Identity Lifecycle Management for Higher Education in about 5 minutes. Before we begin, a quick reminder, please use the Q&A panel in Zoom to type in your questions anytime during the session. Our team will address them during the live Q&A at the end. We'll get underway in about 3 minutes. Today's session is hosted by Quicklaunch, and we'll be tackling a perception problem in higher education today. That is, we have Microsoft Entra, and we don't need anything else for identity or account management. Before we begin, a quick reminder, please use the Q&A panel in Zoom to type in your questions anytime during the session. Our team will address them during the live Q&A at the end. We'll begin in just about 1 minute. Please make sure your audio is set up correctly and get ready to hear from our speaker, Raymond Todd Blackwood, President of Quicklaunch. Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar hosted by Quicklaunch. The goal of this session is to bring thought leadership and practical solutions to the higher education community. Each session is designed to be short, impactful, and focused on addressing real campus challenges. If you'd like to suggest a future topic or present with us, please drop us a note at info@quicklaunchsso.com. In today's session, Microsoft Entra is the highway your campus needs an on-ramp. Joiner Mover Lever was built for employees, not students. The result, ghost accounts in Active Directory, 30-minute synchronization delays during ransomware attacks, Students who dropped a class months ago, still sitting in the Canvas roster, and an IT help desk drowning in tickets that should never have been opened. In this session, we walked through the 4 lifecycle gaps that Microsoft Entra leaves open for higher education: student activation, flexible MFA, FERPA-aware provisioning, and real-time synchronization, and what closing them looks like in production. We will review some recent research that was conducted by the Campus Consortium Foundation and provide you with a comprehensive assessment of where your institution is compared to your peers. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our speaker today, Raymond Todd Blackwood, president of Quicklaunch. Raymond started his career in higher education 30 years ago at the University of Advancing Technology as the director of IT, where he oversaw technology investments supporting the cybersecurity and software engineering programs. In 2011, Ray joined campus management and led the product teams for CRM, student information system, enterprise resource planning, and fundraising. Ray led the modernization of Campus View to Campus Nexus, which ultimately became Anthology Student, recently acquired by Illusion. Ray is driving the mission to bring AI-powered identity and integration to every institution across every segment in higher ed, helping them streamline operations, enhance security, and enable seamless digital experience for students, faculty, and staff. It's now my pleasure to hand the platform over to Ray.
Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you everybody for joining us today. I'm really excited to kick off this conversation. And we are going to start, like I usually like to start, with a question and a poll just to see where everybody's at. So how many of you that are on the call today are using Microsoft Entra as your primary identity and single sign-on provider? So, as Kim mentioned, I spent years working very, very closely with Microsoft on Microsoft technologies. A bunch of time at the Executive Business Center. I was privileged enough to work on the Higher Ed Accelerator program that they had when we launched that. We built the CRM program. So I've been very close to Microsoft, and I've really been building solutions on top of Microsoft my entire career. Hey, Kim, how's it looking? What's the number one answer that we've got in the poll so far? Okay, yes. Entra is the primary IDP and SSO provider. So that is, they've got different ones like Okta, Shibboleth, and Duo. It's fantastic. So, yes, so about 70% of all of our customers are currently on Microsoft Entra. So why do I care about this problem? Well, at Quicklaunch, we really do focus on what we can do to streamline the identity lifecycle management part of the journey of the student. And as I mentioned before, I've been working really closely with Microsoft. In July of 2017, for example, we made the decision that everything that we were going to do was going to be deployed on Azure. We were at Campus Management and Anthology. And so I've been really close to watching this technology mature really rapidly over the last 10 years or so. And so I've been very close, and I think that most institutions should go full in with Microsoft. Get the highest level of A licenses that you could possibly afford, and really take advantage of all the new innovations that Microsoft is bringing to higher ed. I think it's really important. But they are meant for corporate America. They are not meant for higher education. Even though they care deeply about higher education, their solutions really aren't built for the types of scenarios that we have in higher education. It's really meant for this joiner, mover, leaver scenario that Kim mentioned in the intro, right? Which is I am being hired by an institution. I get credentials. Sometimes I get a phone. They tell me how to log into my system. I'm there. I might get promoted. Might have my job change a couple of times. And then eventually I either leave the organization, I'm left the organization, or I retire from the organization. And the life cycle is pretty clean and pretty regular. But that is not the way that it actually works in higher education. In higher education, you go through a variety of access experiences with an institution. It can start when you're in high school. You could be there for a camp. You could be a dual enroll student. The institution can have different ways in which they need to collect information from students in the application journey. That might happen in the admissions product, like a Slate or a Salesforce or an Anthology type of application. You've got Banner, you've got Kali, you've got Workday, you've got HRS, you've got Genzabar, you've got ADP. You've got all these different places that have events that trigger a moment in which a credential needs to be created. Students are enrolled, they're admitted, they drop, they withdraw, they're alumni, they graduate. They still have some level of connection with the institution. And so this clean movement that's been created by Microsoft works for 90% of the businesses that operate around the world. But higher ed is different. And we have very different needs and very different life cycles, and we have different roles that a student has, or that even our staff has over time. And so it's this that we need to take into consideration. We mentioned before there was a research paper done by the Campus Consortium Foundation that just came out in June. In this survey, they found that 85% of organizations actually have their employee onboarded fully automated. And this makes sense because this is pretty much the simplest type of life cycle that you'll have, right? That's that I'm joining the organization, I might get promoted in the organization, I leave the organization. Where the biggest gap is for automation is what happens when you're a student and an employee. And of the survey that was done, only 8% of institutions have automated this concurrent affiliation, where you've got federal work study workers or TAs or people that have multiple roles that kind of like have different levels of access depending on the time of the day and depending on what they're doing. This is a gap. If we go deeper into some of the information, and this is about how these accounts get provisioned. And this is the one thing that I want everyone to hear that Quicklaunch truly solves. There is not a problem today of not having the ability to give your students, to give your faculty, staff, employees, alumni an account. Getting them account is something that we've been doing since you needed an account. This problem has largely been solved. How it's been solved is inefficient, and how it has been solved can often open up risk for the institution. So how many people have no custom scripts and everything's fully automated? 4%. 96% of institutions have not fully automated this critical function of how they need to operate, which is basically how do you give the digital keys to your institution out to the people that need them? And if we look across the board, 46% have between 5 and 20 scripts. These scripts have been built over time. They've been built by student workers, by interns, by previous employees, maybe by you, the CIO, and that you're the only person who knows how to manage some of them. But the reality is that between 32 and 40% of the institutions, there are a complex set of code that has to be remembered, managed, and maintained and evolved over time. And its sole purpose is just to either create a new account, to change the position of a current employee or user, and to hopefully deprovision account or remove access so that person no longer needs or needs to have access to any of your university systems. 78% of higher ed institutions run on custom scripts. And that is something that Entra cannot do natively, right? That's why there's all these custom scripts, because Microsoft provides this incredible platform, but you really have to build the solutions to operate on that platform. Let's take a look at some more data that came from the Campus Consortium Foundation report here. 68% found orphan accounts during audit. Ghost accounts, orphan accounts, accounts that are lying around dormant. These are the prime areas for attack vectors. We know that we are seeing attacks on higher education every single day. Why? Because there is money to be had if you can fall through the cracks and get federal money sent to bad actors, right? We know that there is an opportunity there for crime, and we see it happen, and we're seeing all kinds of steps being taken place by both the Department of Education, by security standards and others to try to close this loophole. 54% have over-provisioned access beyond legitimate need. I call this credential stacking or access stacking. If you think about in higher ed, we tend to have employees that last for a really long time. A lot of the people that have been in higher ed for their whole careers, and you find this on LinkedIn, because I do a lot of LinkedIn networking. I try to reach out and build relationships through LinkedIn. And you'll find in higher education, a lot of people that have had the same job for 20, 30 years, they've never had to go out there and market themselves on LinkedIn. And this is a pretty common practice in higher ed. And so if you've been at an institution for a long time and your job has, your role has changed, you've basically had your access just added onto and added onto and added onto, and it's not reflective of exactly what you need to have access now in your current role. 41% have had delays that affect student registration or class access. This is a big number. This is a student comes in, they're sitting down, they're enrolled, they're ready to start registration for their classes. You're the admissions person. You do the work that you need to do, and now you wait. You wait for it to get provisioned. You wait for the email to come through. You wait for the account to get claimed. You wait for the access. And this time delay can be a real challenge for both the student who's waiting to get access to do something and the admissions rep that's trying to help this student get ready and prepared for class right away. 31% of the audit fine is related to access and identity management. So we know that we have a challenge on many accounts that exist across many departments. And who has access? Do they need that access? How are we managing this today? There's all kinds of reports and things that we do. But if you're solely operating on Microsoft on its own, then what that means is that you are responsible for building these applications, building the reports, building the analytics, building the compliance, and managing that all on your own. And that's really what Quicklaunch wants to solve. So poll question number 2, where does your institution sit on the automation scale? Are you fully automated? There's no custom scripts whatsoever. You walk into work every day, you look at some kind of screen or board, and it tells you exactly how many students, part-time students, faculty members, TAs, ad hoc faculty members have been created or their permissions have been changed, and how many accounts have been deprovisioned over time. If you can look at that and have to have no action from no humans, then you're in bucket number 1. I think most people are probably between the middle 3 there. But Kim, what does the data look like as it's coming in? Did we just deploy it now? I'll tell the story since I'm sitting right here. We're waiting for the data to come in. I was asking a college student, what was the experience like for them? And at their school, they are actually handed a piece of paper with their password written. And so that, yes, can I get the results, please? So that is really 25 to 20 custom scripts. This is about what average that we see happening on college campuses. So you've got the whole spectrum, fully automated, electronic experience, streamlined account creation, streamlined account claim, setting your password for the first time, setting up your multi-factor authentication for the first time, no tickets being generated, knowing exactly where the problems are, or no, come in here, stand in the line, look at the thing, pull out the card, hand you your password on a piece of paper, and hope that piece of paper gets destroyed over time. I mean, we've got the entire gamut of what's out there. So what are we here to talk about? And Kim did a really good job of setting this up. In our assessment, there are 4 key areas where there is a gap between what Microsoft Entra provides you at your institution in terms of identity and single sign-on management and the actual lifecycle workflow that needs to happen so that your institution can operate securely and efficiently and with the least amount of human oversight or disruption to your daily work as possible. We're going to go through each one of these 4, but it's basically the day 1 problem, how quickly the user account gets created. 2, recognizing that not everybody has a $1,000 smartphone and an authenticator, and that's not the option that everybody can have. We've got students that aren't allowed to have cell phones. We'll get into that in a minute. And we've got all kinds of populations where just the authenticator app just isn't right. We've got a problem with really understanding the life cycle of the student. You could have students that are under the age of 18. You could have students that are workers. You could have part-time students that only have access to certain applications. You can have students that are research students that have access to additional research and access and physical and virtual access that they need to have provisioned. And then you've got the time delay issue. If you've worked in IT and you've ever tried to make a change and wait for that change to replicate through the DNS servers and the identity server and everything to sync up so you can get the access, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's walk through these a little bit more as we go through. Okay, the first one, what Microsoft Entra does. Microsoft, and shout out to my friends at Microsoft. If you know Rob Curtin, you know Mike Mass, you know TJ, all these guys that have been working in Microsoft education for 20 years, they are passionate about education. And I'm not going to sell it short. Microsoft really does care about education. I think they focus more on the K-12 market than they focus on the higher ed market. But ultimately, they want you to use their product. They want you to use School Data Sync, right? Which is a wonderful rostering program in collaboration with IMS Global and the One Roster API to synchronize the students with getting licenses to Office 365. Beautiful. We use that. We encourage you guys to use that. Um, what they also provide are very generic, here are your credentials. One of the things that we pride ourselves in doing is when a new account is created for a user, we do not give them a temporary password. We do not place that temporary password in text. We do not give them a limerick or a puzzle to solve based off of data that's related to them. It truly is a one-time link to claim their account, and there's no risk of that sitting around for a long period of time, not being able to have that or having that account claimed by a nefarious character, right? So we solve that problem. You have to sort of figure that out and send that email by yourself on the Microsoft side. There's no guided activation workflow. It assumes that people know what to do, and students are really treated like corporate employees. From the research, there 42% of institutions fully automate account activation upon enrollment conversion confirmation. So we still have a lot of higher ed that needs to have this fully automated account activation process, and that's something that we really pride ourselves. I tell this story all the time. If you're a student, and my daughter is about to be a senior in high school, and she's going through the process. She's filling out the Common App. You know, her and her friends are going and they're visiting colleges this summer. There's that moment of anxiousness and nervousness when you apply to get into an institution. You're waiting for that letter to come into the mail, and there it is. There's that letter in your mailbox, that physical letter, and you know that inside there is one of two form letters, right? Did I get in or did I not get in? It's an emotional experience. It's a memorable experience for the entire family when that moment happens. We don't send that letter. We send the second letter. Ours is the second most important thing that you get in the mail, which is now that you've been accepted, how do you get in? How do you get access? Right? And so we want that experience to be not the same level of emotion, excitement it is when you get accepted, right? Because that's a clear moment of accomplishment for a student. But now it's like now it becomes real. It moves from you've been accepted to now you are in. And how do you get in? Well, that's what this online account activation process is all about. University branded, making sure that the identity verification happens before the credentials are used, making sure that we've got a paperless account claim workflow, making sure that there's an enrollment status verification, that you're in the right stage to be able to claim this account, and to make it happen as quickly and smoothly as possible, reducing the number of IT tickets that come in, reducing the complexity, and making it really simple for students to get involved. One of our customers, Stephen F. Often, 60% reduction in help test tickets after deployment. And that's really what we're shooting for, right? A better experience for students and a less complicated experience for IT departments. Now let's talk about multi-factor authentication. Personally, as an old guy who doesn't like to live my life on my phone, I kind of pride myself on the Sunday morning when my phone tells me that I've only averaged 2 hours a day of screen time every single day. I really don't like having my phone on me all the time. I like people relationships. I like doing stuff. But in this day and age, you have to have your phone. I can't drive my car without my phone, right? I have a car that has no keys. So like I have to have my phone to carry around with me. The reality is that that is me, but not everyone has access to the highest level of technology and cell phones that are out there. Many of us serve populations that are in prison. They clearly don't have cell phones. Many of us have dual enroll students and have students that are in high school that attend some level of class or take classes. Well, there's many states now. I think there's like 17 states that bell to bell there is no cell. And so you can't even have your phone active on campus during school hours. So how are you going to use your authenticator app to get into the system then? So we pride ourselves in having the most flexible set of multi-factor authentication options available. Now, we would prefer that people use pass keys, right? Pass keys are pretty much the most current, well-established multi-factor authentication option that there is. It ensures both biometric and device and person. Like so, it really makes sure that the person is who they say they are. You know, there's still a barrier to limitation for smartphones and things like that, or making sure that your browser or device has the passkey capability into it. But when you move through the levels, right, where you've got SMS, which is probably the weakest factor. You've got email. We also offer things like security questions. If you need a hardware key, you want to use pass keys, facial recognition, passwordless. Most exciting, we have the ability to do AI-powered voice password reset, where a complete AI agent can get on the phone and talk to the person and verify their identity and help them reset their password and things like that. MFA blocks 99% of identity attacks. And that's the reality of the world that we're living in. Multi-factor authentication is here to stay. It's going to become more important to accessing not just the initial access into the institution, but we're even seeing changes from vendors that are forcing changes in their SSO integration or their SAML integration to have more secure MFA token data pass through it. So we know this is coming in. We're also seeing more and more security organizations say that the text message one-time password is the one that's probably going to be, it's the easiest one to use for sure, but it's probably the first that's going to start declining over time or be limited based off of the amount of information that you have access to at the institution. So number two gap that we want to provide is let you know that Authenticator app isn't the only option. We have many different options, and we want to have the option that best fits the student population that you're serving. Number three, FRPR-aware lifecycle. This is where the joiner, mover, leaver lifecycle kind of breaks down for higher ed. You could be a person like me, like a Van Wilder type of person who goes to college and doesn't leave for like a decade, taking classes, working at the college, having a whole bunch of different roles, just never quite ever wants to leave the world of higher education. You've got student workers, you've got adjunct faculty members that come and go. They may teach one class a semester. You have graduate students who are alumni, but maybe enrolled in a future program or a graduate program. You have students that might change different schools across the individual university that might have different controls and access. And this is a real problem. I've got the number 19% fully automate student to alumni transition. There's the big question out there. Do we deactivate alumni accounts? Do we restrict the access that they have? And all of these are business questions that each institution has to answer. And Quicklaunch is here to provide the flexible solution for you to do the business process that you want to do, but also recognize that we can't ignore different parts of the life cycle because they're more difficult or because they are complicated. And in a world where we are all moving from on-premise infrastructure into cloud, and we have a hybrid of identity servers that are in the cloud, and you've got Active Directory that's still on-prem, we've got some applications that are homegrown that are stored in our regular cloud, and you've got big cloud vendors that are out there. We've got such a hodgepodge of hybrid technologies that having a partner like Quicklaunch that can handle those complexities, that can visually show you exactly where every single user is. Who has access to me is the most important question that we can answer, because Quicklaunch can tell you who has access, not just the people that have access to applications, how they're logging in, what devices they're logging in from, but do they have the access that they need? When are they accessing it, and do those things? We can do the same thing on the identity from application to application. That's next month's webinar. But really what we're here to talk about is the realities that it's not so simple that a student is signing up, they're joining, they're attending, they leave, and there isn't a change in what they need access to. And there isn't some complexities in the relationship that people have at your institution or within your community to the systems that they have access to. And finally, we want to be faster, especially for deprovisioning. We want to make sure that there isn't that 40-minute wait time between a ticket getting logged or a status changing in Banner or in Anthology Student or somewhere else where you have to wait 10, 15, 20, 30, 45 minutes for that account job to run and poll and get created. On an event-driven system in today's day and age, we should be able to do this nearly instantly, and we can. And so what Quicklaunch adds is real-time bidirectional password sync, immediately deprovisioning, zero delay on lockouts, hybrid environment support, and we want to be event-driven, not schedule-driven. Of course, this largely comes into play on how complex or the different kind of business process that you have, but you don't need to be limited by the way that things have worked in the past. We can be empowered into the future and be able to use platforms like Quicklaunch to really ensure that our business processes and our life cycles are adhered to, so we don't have to worry about that leakage of access happening because of this process. So how do we do it? How do we fit in? Well, Quicklaunch integrates. We don't fight against it. And my message is we complete, we don't compete. And I want to make that very clear. I'm not looking to try to convince anybody that they should be using Quicklaunch for their sole identity management and their SSO and their MFA and their lifecycle management and exist with it purely on its own. That is not what I'm trying to sell here. What I'm trying to help my friends in higher education understand is that there is this gap in processing that requires your IT department to develop the skills and the knowledge of all of the different systems that you have, the complexities of the events that are happening in businesses and in your business process for all of these different populations. And you need to figure out how to initiate and manage those users. We have solved this problem for 200 institutions across the US, and we want to solve it for everyone. We believe that we can come in and we can work right with your desire to leverage all of the greatest innovations and technologies that Microsoft has to offer on Entra, but close these very specific gaps that are related to higher education in terms of when does my new student account get created? What is that experience for them to know that that account was created? What is it like for them to claim that account and verify who they are, to set their password under the conditions and the rules that we set, to make that process clearly articulated and well defined so it doesn't exhaust our help desk and our student services folks and to send a whole bunch of tickets into IT that need to get processed? And how do we know that the people who are supposed to log in are logging in with the devices and the passwords that they're supposed to log in with? That is what Quicklaunch is doing to coexist with Microsoft and all of the complex systems with your vendors that you have. We exist with Microsoft Entra. I would love it if everybody used our single sign-on and our multi-factor authentication. That's not the reality of what the market wants to do, and I want to coexist with that desire. We want to help you make the transition to Microsoft Entra to use the power that they have. But like we said in the beginning, the highway is Microsoft. Microsoft rapidly gets you from one place to another, but you got to get on that highway, right? Quicklaunch is the on-ramp. Quicklaunch is the off-ramp. We help get your users into that Microsoft Entra world, ramped up so you can use all the power that you have available from that platform, but then get them off of there when they need to get off there quickly, and help manage that whole process of seeing who's getting provisioned, whose roles are changing, and who needs to have their access denied. Like I said, 70% of our customers are also on Microsoft Entra. We had that verified by the poll at the beginning as well. And so, we can integrate with external authentication methods. I'm not going to throw out the acronym soup because that's what I'm fighting against every single day is all of the IT acronyms that come in when we talk about these things. But what you need to know is that it's not an either or, it's a yes and. Complete, not compete. And that is the message that we're here to share with each and every one of you. And that's really what we want you to share with your peers as well. Well, they say, what does Quicklaunch do? Well, they answer the simple question, who has access? And it's who has access, how are they accessing, what are they accessing, and how do I know that for sure? We provide the visual overview and capabilities for that. So what is the next steps and where do you go and how do you complete that? What we've done is we've created a little assessment. If you scan this QR code, there'll be another one at the slide at the very end here. But what we wanted to do was to help you figure out exactly where you are in your scale of automation. It's a quick 16-question experience that's going to walk through what it's like for your students and your staff members as they come into your community, as they grow within your community, and as they leave your community. We want to help identify the areas that you probably have really, really strong processes and automation tools for, and where those gaps are, and where they're weak, and where Quicklaunch can fit in, and how we can help solve those problems. It would be great if as many of you as possible would take the time to take a look at this, because I think it's really going to open up. It's going to help you ask some questions on how are we doing these things today? How brittle are our scripts? What happens when something goes wrong with those scripts? How do we maintain them? How are we auditing them? Do we have to build analytics to report on them? Who's maintaining those reports and analytics? Or is there a vendor like Quicklaunch that could just come in, listen to our business processes, do the work of actually automating these different complex scenarios, visualizing that data for you so you can see exactly where it is, and ensure that only the people who need to have access are accessing your systems on campus. Next poll question. Who would like to have a working session to walk through their audit results and the roadmap to close on the gaps? I think this is a great conversation. Even if you don't think that you're looking to partner with Quicklaunch today and a vendor, if you want to talk about this, this is one of the things that I'm really excited about. I know that this is an area that we can help improve overall in higher ed across thousands of institutions. You know, we're really successful at a small group of institutions. We've got about 200 of you right now. This is not something that's for just small colleges or private colleges or HBCUs or community colleges. Every single college and university needs to be very, very thoughtful about the access that they provide to their institution and to their systems and what those people could do and how we're monitoring it. We want to help have a seat at the table when you're talking about these challenges and you're solving these problems. So even if you don't think that this is something that's on your project today, going through this assessment, taking a look at where you are is going to open up your eyes to see where are some areas that we can improve, because all of us can improve. All of us can find ways to be more efficient. And we are in a really, really exciting time for identity. For as long as I can remember, and this would be, and so let me just give some context here. You know, as long as we've been creating accounts on Windows for work groups, which is where I started. You know, when we first built our very first login manager, was listening to a status change that happened in our student information system. You know, we had a view that was built in the database. We'd pick it up. We'd create their Active Directory account. We'd push their SY student ID onto the description of the Active Directory. Then that would then go through an SSIS package and move it into another database where we could provision access to the card system, the library system, the bookstore, the cafe, you know, the labs that you had to have access to if you were certain students, right? This login manager application that we built in the 90s, right? The problem hasn't changed, it's just evolved. The biggest thing that is new is the introduction of non-human identities, or people who can assign a non-human identity to operate access on their behalf. This is new. This is exciting. This is a new world that we're entering into, where non-humans can have identities and have access to do things on campus. And so while you may have had it figured out for quite some time on how you're going to manage people, 2026 and 2027 is how are we going to manage the non-people that are doing stuff on our campus. So it's not just about the life cycle of your students and your employees. It's about these virtual students and employees that are going to be coming on campus in the next year or so, and how we're going to manage and cover those. So I'd love to have these conversations. This is what I think about all the time. This is what our team is working on solving for all of our institutions. You're going to see that we had a wonderful go live announcement earlier this week. I've got another one coming out right after this webinar today. You're going to see a series of institutions that are going to go live over the summer, all who know that they need to solve this problem, get ahead of this problem. And we are really excited to see Quicklaunch evolve and grow with your institutions as you get more prepared to have a more secure posture and a better student onboarding experience. We want to extend that onto non-human identities and how applications are going to talk to each other, and not just people talking to applications. With that, I'm going to pause and I'm going to take a drink of water, and I'll let Kim share some information.
Thanks, Ray, and thanks to all of you for joining us in today's session. All right, so before we close out, today Ray is offering 2 free takeaways from today's conversation. One, the Quicklaunch Lifecycle Audit Assessment for onboarding new users. So this 16-question assessment will help your institution find gaps, if any are present in your current identity lifecycle management flow. The second is our Quicklaunch AI Agent Inventory tool. So if you missed our last webinar with Dr. Clark from Alabama State University, you would have heard about the impact that AI agents are having on campus. And we at Quicklaunch want to ensure that your institution is getting ahead of managing these influence and actions on campus. This is why we created the AI Agent Inventory tool, and this will assist your IT organization with governing over the growing number of AI agents popping up on campus. We encourage each of you to take advantage of these tools so that you are more confident in speaking to the management and governance of agents on campus. And if you'd like to keep the conversation going, just scan the QR code on your screen or click on the link in the chat. They'll let you set up a meeting with our team and get a more in depth, personalized demo for your institution focusing specifically on your systems. Thank you again for spending time with us today. We hope that you found value in the conversation. We had a great response to this event, and we will be continuing our webinar series each month. So be on the lookout for future invitations. Next month, Ray will be hosting another webinar on a new approach to integrations, designing with agents in mind. You can get more info through the QR code on the screen. However, you don't have to wait to learn about how Quicklaunch is evolving, the way we implement and think about application to application data exchange with our agentic design studio. You can check out our previous webinar on the topic or check out our online video overview. Our sister company, Blackwell Help, is hosting a webinar on June 25th about how University of Nevada, Reno, deployed voice AI in just 6 weeks. Ray will also be featured on an upcoming webinar with Campus Consortium on Tuesday, June 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern, who let the agents in the AI-ready institution. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the links in the chat to get more information and to register yourself. Have a great afternoon and a weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody, and I look forward to many more conversations with you in the future. Have a wonderful week and enjoy your holiday weekend.